And as we've done that, and part of that is this making amends to try and, I mean, you can imagine all the wrongs that I made. For example, the $100 that I stole from Amelia, I've paid her that back.
And that exactly means amends, going back and restoring what you have done wrong, the best to your ability.
Yep, and I'll tell you,
Yeah.
even 4 years down the road of being in recovery, I'll be making amends for this for the rest of my life.
Probably we all need to do.
Yep, and that's
It's a
something.
great principle for life.
It is. And,
Make amends of the wrongs you have done.
Absolutely, and I'll continue to make wrongs. And part of this program is when we make those wrongs that we promptly admit it and try and correct them again.
Correct. That's the beauty. That's
So
really, really beautiful.
What led you to believe you had it under control when you're spending $100 a day?
That's a great question.
Yes.
Denial. That's the way. I didn't believe that I was spending. Jamie was trying to tell me for years how much I was spending. She could put a statement down in front of me of exactly how much money that I was spending, data, and nope, that's not true, not true. So I just denied it. And it wasn't until I was a good 6 months in recovery where I could actually admit that, yep, I was spending $100 a day. And quite honestly, that probably is a conservative number.
Right.
So what happened that caused you to switch that switch that says, all right, I'm ready to admit it?
Yeah. I kind of it was a little bit crazy that I just found this place that, like, the more honest I could be with myself, the more freeing it was.
Mm.
And I heard this saying all the time of, like, how free do you want to be?
Mm.
How free do you want to be? Then be honest. Be more honest. And so as I've been able to, and I continue to work to be more honest in everything that I do, that's the freedom is really just, it's amazing. And it's an amazing feeling, and you realize that these principles, they work, and they work on small scales, and they work on large scales.
Good stuff. Jamie, this one for you. Why didn't you leave him? Or why didn't you make him leave?
That actually is a great question. So here's my thought process was, it was too hard to leave. It was too hard to stay. I was in a tough spot. Both options sounded horrible. It didn't sound, I had this neat story where I had somebody approach me and let me know that, I needed to leave. She had done it, she had left, found somebody else, and that was great. And this new person loved their kids so much, and their life was so happy. And honestly, as wonderful as that felt for me, it sounded so good to me, because she's like, this man treats us so good. He's an honest man. And I just thought, oh, that sounds so wonderful. But it truly broke my heart, because I thought, that's not my family. That is not their dad. I just knew that our happiest our family could be was with him being better. So it felt hard to leave. I couldn't imagine the thought of, having to separate our kids and sending them to him for a weekend. And so I just kept praying for the miracle. Even though the few people who would find out just told me I was crazy for staying, I also felt crazy for leaving.
Wow.
Wow.
What a dilemma. Huh?
So then this question is for all y'all. You ready? You went through years of this.
Yes. That's
Specifically
amazing.
for you, Jamie. Many, many years of this. Hoping, disappointment,
Praying,
praying, again,
giving them
and
chances.
again, chance after chance, things missing. I mean, the truth be told, this is nothing compared to your story, to what you actually went through
Oh, yeah.
day after day with the feelings, emotions, and all
Oh,
those
yeah.
different things
The
while
pain, the
still
tears.
maintaining a household.
Right.
My question, you ready for it? This is for all y'all, mainly for you, Jamie. Did the years of struggle make you callous?
Actually, yeah. Like bitter? Is that what you're asking?
Did it change your perspective about life? Do you tend to be more direct or more real, not really wasting time with facades and stuff now because of your experiences?
Riley says
Absolutely.
yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that? Yeah, Riley would like to share. Yeah, you go ahead and share.
I just think it's been really cool, like, to just see the change of, like, coming out of that shell and just being real with everyone and just realizing that once, the second you open up and you're willing to be real and you're willing to share what you're really going through, it, like, opens the gates for everyone else to be able to. And when you, like, when you share your story, it allows other people to, too, and just realize, like, hey, we're all, like, none of us are perfect here. Like, we're all
Right.
suffering, we're all going through hard stuff, so just be real about it. And that's been cool to watch. But
So let me ask you this. You did mention about being upset, right?
oh yeah,
And then you got it. It kind of like the Holy Spirit got a hold of you and changed your mindset, right? Can you tell us what that looked like? What is that like when you still have to face your dad? And yesterday you was completely upset with him, and today it's kind of a little different. How does that work? How does that look in the house?
well, I think it's just, so me and my dad, I mean, we've always been really close, you know, and it was really hard to see that, like, this huge, like, hero figure in my life just,
Crumbling.
and I always had hope and faith in him, and I always loved him so much, but I was filled with that anger and that hate, you know, and I was just so mad. And to see the difference between my dad, who that substance had taken over his life, and to see him now, and it's just so cool to see the person he's been able to become because of it, and to watch him, like, grow and learn from it and be able to, because he could have very easily just been, like, just up and out and just gone and
Walked
lived his
away.
addict life. Yeah, but he,
Or be dead.
and he
Or
just,
be crazy.
Yep, exactly. And there's
Or
so
be
many,
homeless.
Yeah,
Those are
there's so-
horrible options.
yes,
yeah.
there's so many paths and options he could have gone down. So for me
Wrong
to be able
options,
to see
yeah.
him be willing to choose the path of, I want to get better because I love you and I want to stay with you,
That
was
takes
just
courage.
really cool. But
Courage from your dad.
mhm.
Yeah. And a supportive family. Now, Michael is dying. I'm sorry.
think
I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes.
Somebody over here. So.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's kind of weird. I just thought of this, but like, I think of it like a snail. Like, its whole life it's been in its shell, and then all of a sudden that shell comes off. You think it's just like an animal, like some people like him, like it's like you don't think anything bad about it, but then once the shell comes off, you see like all the gross and stuff inside, and that's like exactly how like we were as a family.
I love
Right.
I love that. That
And
is amazing.
That's the cool part about it, is we thought that would ruin us.
Right.
We thought that would, I mean, we just had so many friends and relationships and wonderful things going for us and opportunities and between sports and jobs. And I was, you know, the relationships we had, we thought that would ruin everything. And now I think all of us can say the same thing, that we see the world a lot differently.
I can
So,
imagine.
you know, we see people a lot differently. We
Yeah.
see through
Yeah.
maybe any facades that might be out
Yeah.
there. In fact, I think for me, it just gives me compassion for them and
Yep.
love. And I just, whatever might be hiding underneath that, whatever pain, whether they're an addict or they're perfect or whatever their life might look like, I just have so much love and compassion. I never could have imagined how much my heart could have so much love for people. And it's God's love. That's what it is. Because I see that God sees me differently, sees our family differently, sees Steve differently than I ever thought he saw us before. And that shifted, and now I see him differently, and I know that I see everybody through God's eyes, and that is just beautifully, no matter what that looks like in their life, how wonderful their life might look or how hard their life might look, I love them all the same.
That's a gift.
That is awesome.
That
It
is
is
a
a beautiful
gift that
gift.
God has given you.
Right.
And thank God for that. But I do have another question. So y'all did mention Steve could have turned out any other way. And I just want to know, when you were at your worst, did you look as healthy and good as you look today? I'm just wondering. How was your appearance then?
Here's the funny thing about this disease. I thought I had everyone fooled, right? Like I look fine. I didn't eat real well. So, you know, first thing that happened to me when I got clean was I did put on a lot of weight. But I think that's kind of the scary thing about this disease is I didn't look like someone you'd see homeless on the streets. I look just like every other dude
Normal.
going into Walmart, you know, just normal person, going around day by day. I was in an office, but I was sick. I was so sick. And that it was just mainly spiritually that I was so sick.
So for the viewers who's listening, who may be dealing with something or in the beginning stages, and they may have it in their mind similar to things like you, I got this under control, there's not an issue,
Yeah.
you know, or it may be at the point where they're taking too many prescription pills. What would you have to say to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the one thing that I could say is turn to God. You're never too far away from God for his help.
Right. And he knows it already, right?
Yeah, right? He knows it already, and you're not fooling God.
Right, right.
And you know, I think that to me was the shift that happened. You know, I did go through treatment, I did all these things, but the difference was my relationship with God.
Man.
Turn to God. Get on your knees. Pray to him. Beg. Bare your heart to him. That's the only way I'm convinced that this change is able to happen, because I tried everything. Everything in my power. I didn't want to be a drug addict. I didn't
Right.
want to be doing this.
No one does.
No one does. And on my own, I couldn't do it. The only way is with God and his help. And find those people that help draw you closer to God.
That is awesome.
I had a thought on that, just because I feel like we face a lot of people who are really early in it, and they think they don't need a program.
Right, right.
And they
right.
think, you know, we're actually okay.
Yeah,
I've
okay.
heard so many people say, my husband's not an alcoholic, he drinks a lot, and it's pretty bad. And he, you know, and I hear all this stuff, I'm like, that's alcoholism. But it's so hard to see it. The denial is really, really
Right,
thick.
right.
And you don't mean to be in denial. I mean, I say I was in denial all those years. I was well aware he was taking pills, but the denial has you trapped in a place thinking that it's
They
gonna
will
go
get better
away
on their
its-
own,
and that
yeah.
it's gonna go
They
away
can
on
stop
its own.
anytime. And
Right,
it is,
but addiction has no bounds, no boundaries.
no.
And so,
And it touches every class.
right, something I didn't even learn until after he got into treatment was that addiction is fatal, it's progressive,
Yes.
and it's, what's the third one?
Costly.
Yeah, but it's fatal and it's progressive. So
Right.
it doesn't go away on its own without
No.
some form of treatment or help. So in the early stages, like you mentioned, where he's just taking a lot of pills by doctors, and they were still prescribed, but he was taking more than was prescribed and
Right.
seeking for more. I mean, if at that point we knew what we knew now, we would have done things a lot differently.
Right.
So my hope is when people come to me and they're in those, I mentioned the 5 different years where you're at, in those first 5 years, if someone would have sat us down and made us take this real seriously and showed us that it's fatal and it's progressive and that it doesn't just go away, everybody we talked to or that has been through this, everybody thought the same thing, that it would just go away at some point, that it would just stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Michael is really, really excited to read. He has a letter to read. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead. I know that yes, that one. And he's going to be reading also an Alateen letter that a young kid wrote for his dad. So go ahead, Michael, please. You're fine.
Dear Dad, this is to you because I love you. I have been going to Alateen meetings for months, for 10 months, and I am learning a lot. But sometimes I wonder if you know how hard it is to live with you. You just never trust us. Some days I wonder, are you drinking again? Why don't you go to AA like I got to Alateen? I love you, Dad. I know we all do. But bit by bit, I see our whole family falling apart. There are times when it is hard for me to understand why you don't real life is. Just think how happy you could be. Have a wonderful with a wonderful life, 7 children, a grandson, all caring for you. For as long as I've been living, you've been drinking. Before Alateen, I used to think I was responsible for it. But now I know that I'm not. Now I know that I'm not, and that can't stop it. I'm trying every day, very hard, to be happy and enjoy my friends in my school. I am also learning that in order to keep loving you, I need to take care of myself. I'm asking my higher power for the strength to not scream at you the next time you're drunk. It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try. But I know one thing, Dad. No matter what you do, I'll still love you.
Isn't that an amazing letter? It is written by a teenager, and it's written to a parent who's still in drug addiction or alcoholism. And so I am so thankful, Michael, that you read it, because it reflects the pain. One of the things that really touch me right now is that the kids think they're the cause. Maybe they didn't bring the grades, and that made the parent drink, or maybe they were not good enough, and that is not true. It is not true. It's a decision of the adult. But the child doesn't have the tools to understand that. And that's the beauty of the Al-Anon and Alateen program.
Can I share something on that real quick?
Please, please.
So, in recovery, there's the serenity prayer,
Oh,
and that is,
I love that one.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Right.
And I think that is like one of my favorite things I've learned, and it goes along with that, because some things like that I cannot control if my dad relapses. I can't control if my parents fight. That is out of my control. But
Or the divorce, or
yes,
exactly. Separation, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, so I can't take that onto myself.
No,
And I can't
you
put that on
shouldn't.
myself and blame myself for that.
No.
I need to realize the things I can change, and which is the only thing I can change is myself, right? And courage, and have that courage to change myself, and realize that I can only control myself in that situation. But
Right. And one of the things too is that sometimes, even as adults, we don't know what we can change and what we cannot change. And that's where asking for wisdom comes in. Because the wisdom is the one that will tell us, and yes, you're so very right, Pastor. We cannot change anybody. I have no control over my kids. Of course. But I don't have the power to change anybody except me. Wow, that is so amazing. Thank you, Ray, for sharing that. Now, in the restoration part, Jamie, in the courage to change, can you read that? Because I think that one of the reasons why we're seeing success in your family is because the power to forgive. So go ahead, please.
Right. This is a beautiful reminder for today that forgiveness can be just a change of attitude. I came to Al-Anon full of bitterness towards the alcoholic in my life. When I realized that my bitterness hurt me more than anyone else, I began to search for another way to view my situation. In time, I came to believe that my alcoholic loved one might be the messenger my higher power used to let me know that I needed to get help. It is not fair to shackle him with credit or blame him for the amount of time it took for me to pay attention to that message. I chose to tolerate a great deal of unacceptable behavior because I was unwilling to admit that I needed help. There we go. I did the best I could with the tools and knowledge I had at hand, and I believe that he did too. Eventually, the message got through. I made it to the rooms of Al-Anon, and my life changed in miraculous ways. I don't deny that hurtful things were said and done along the way, but I refuse to carry the the burden of bitterness any further. Instead, I am grateful for what I've learned. Today's reminder is that I will not allow old resentments to drag me down any longer. I am building a better and more loving life today. Forgiving is not forgetting. It's letting go of the hurt. That is awesome.
It is, and that is the reading for today in the
So
Courage to
perfect.
Change for Al-Anon. And it is perfect. It fits your family very, very well because each of you chose with love and kindness to forgive. And that is the power of the restoration. Now, Pastor, you had another question before I interrupted you, so.
Yes, I did. Let's see here. For the group of people that are watching this, right, may be experiencing something that you guys are experiencing. Now, I heard, I think from every one of them and you, about the arguments, how bad they were. I would like to think someone who's on drugs would be fun.
That's true,
Right,
actually.
you know,
That's
I mean,
true.
So what are the arguments about? And what can a family expect other issues to come out just outside of just the financial issues? You know, what other issues can they expect when? if
Financial brings every kind of trouble, Pastor.
That's very true.
I imagine there's many, many, many more.
Oh, I can imagine, yes.
I feel like the fighting came from the lying.
Okay.
That's, I think, the lack of trust. I think a lot of times love relies so much on trust. And there was a lot of lying going on. The lying was not just between me and Steve, but between the kids. I mean, they didn't find out that Steve was addicted to pills until later, like about a year before he got into recovery. Until then, it was just that was the hard thing. When he was taking pills, he was very pleasant, very enjoyable. He honestly was the funnest dad. And he still is the funnest dad, but there was a gap where he had to relearn how to be that fun dad without pills. So that's funny you'd say that because that is true. He was very pleasant, very enjoyable. So you can imagine how hard that was for us I hated the pills so bad, but at the same time it was kind of like,
Go
do
take your
what you've
pills.
gotta do. We have
Go
this
take
one-
your pills.
What do we call
How can you
it
be
on
angry?
Sundays?
Sunday.
On Sunday.
Sunday.
We'd call it the Sunday sickness because, Dad's sick again.
Okay.
Really, it was him not taking pills, and the
Yeah.
weekend, probably a weekend recommitting. I'm never going to do that. I'm done. I'm done every
That's the
single
promise
weekend.
that they give us all the time.
Right, and we'd go on a trip. First few days of the trip were awesome. By the end of the trip, he's just sleeping. We're doing everything without him.
Right.
And Mom's just being like, "Oh, Dad doesn't feel very well today. We're just gonna go
Covering up,
without him."
right.
Totally covering up.
Right.
But what else do? You
Yeah.
don't want to throw them under the bus because they love their dad so
Right.
much, and I love him too. And I have a little bit of compassion, but that compassion runs out, and then it turns to anger. It does.
Yeah,
It turns to
it turns
anger
to
and
anger,
resentment and
frustration.
bitterness and.
Yeah.
And that started to bleed into all the areas. So
And
that's where I think
anguish,
the
too.
fighting came in, where it's just like, get this together. And then like Riley mentioned, like just stop taking them already. Just
How come you cannot stop
enough.
because you love us?
right. And you don't love us enough to stop and be
Right,
done.
right.
So I
Do you
think
love
that's-
yourself?
That's
You
where the
love-
fighting came in, and then it was the promises over and over and over.
Broken
Promises to himself that I will never do this again. I'm done. I'll never do this again. And then it always he wasn't capable of, I was expecting to tell the truth, but he was not capable of telling me the truth. As much as he wanted to, he wasn't even able to. I was asking him something that was actually impossible for him to do. He wasn't capable. I could give him proof in front of him, and he would still deny it. So that's when the fighting would come, or the anger of like, oh no, you're too fun. You've been so great all week. Oh no, this means you're using again. you know, but when he promised he wasn't, I just thought he was doing well. So I think that's pretty chaotic. That's where the chaos comes in. Did you have something to say?
Wow.
Riley did, right?
I think it's, is this still on? Yeah.
Yeah, it's on.
Like we were saying about if you love me, just stop. I remember the day that my dad left. He came into my room before he left, like to tell me like bye or whatever. And I just remember him give me like we were both just crying, and he gave me a hug, and he said, "I'm sorry, and I love you." And I remember thinking, if you really love me, then just stop. If you love me, just stop. Like it's not that hard. You say you love me, but if you really did love me, like why can't you just stop? And now I realize, like, he couldn't just stop. It's like, he was sick, and it's, we have this, like, little thing that we think about of, it's just a sickness, and it's like if you were to take a cancer patient, right? Like, you can't just tell them, just get better, like, just heal, you know? So if you take that addict and you, instead of thinking them as a bad guy, you just think of them like as in a hospital gown. And really, he did love me, and he did want to stop. He just couldn't. He was sick, and he needed help.
That's good.
Right.
That's good.
To that point, that was a shift also that I had to have in my mind. I believed that I was a bad guy. Like that's kind of how I learned to live with my decisions, was like, I'm just evil. And that actually was a relief to me, because I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? It's like, oh, I'm just evil. So I had to make the shift from, I was not a bad guy trying to get good. I was a sick man trying to get well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because then there comes a recrimination, you know, I'm not worth it.
Yep.
No one loves me. Everyone is against me. You know, I cannot do anything right. You know, I cannot keep a job. I cannot keep my family, and all of that self-recrimination, rather than saying I am sick and I need help, and I am worthy because there is a higher power who loves me. Pastor, this has been an awesome session with this beautiful family. I am so thankful that you decided to accept our invitation. We hope to see you again, and please keep being a blessing. Al-Anon and Al-Anon do work, combined with the help of your higher power.
Man, good. I salute you.
Yes,
Keep it up.
yes.
You're a miracle, man. You're a walking miracle. A lot of people do not make it the way you did it.
Right,
And so keep sharing that story with you. Keep putting God first. Keep telling everybody, giving God the glory. And I'm so excited to have all of you. Michael, my man. Oh, y'all glad. I'm glad to have you.
Amelia, Riley, and
Jamie. We're
Thank
glad
you,
to
thank
have
you.
you.
Thank you, Smith family.
God bless you.
We're
Thank
so
you.
proud of you.
Yep.
Yay.
This is Pastor Chris with the Juniper Tree Podcast. We are so happy again to have this wonderful segment. And we'll see you next week. God bless you.
Yes.